All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to decode the building blocks of your diet, carbohydrates and lipids, or, as you probably call them, carbs and sats.
You see this stuff everywhere, right? Slapped on magazine covers, all over food packaging. Fats make you fat. Carbs are the enemy. But you know what? The real story isn't about good versus bad. It's actually all about chemistry. So, to really understand how these foods affect our bodies, we've got to look at how they're built, molecule by molecule. It turns out their shape and their structure, well, that determines pretty much everything. Okay, let's dive into this. Let's start with the basics. Our bodies run on these big molecules called biological macromolecules. Now, I know that sounds super complex, but trust me, the idea is actually pretty simple. Most of the food we eat is made of these huge molecules called polymers. And a polymer is really just a long, repeating chain of smaller units called monomers. Just think about it like a brick wall. The whole wall is the polymer, and each individual brick is a monomer. Simple, right? Now, what's really interesting is how these bricks actually link together. It happens in a process called dehydration synthesis, which is just a fancy way of saying to put together while losing water. Basically, two monomers line up, a little water molecule pops out, and bam, a strong bond snaps them together. And this perfectly illustrates our main idea today. The way these molecules are built, their structure, determines their job, or their function. Okay, so let's move on to our first macromolecule, lipids, which we all know as fats. We're always being told to eat good fats and avoid bad fats, but what does that actually mean at the molecular level? Believe it or not, the entire difference between a so-called good fat and a bad fat comes down to these tiny little chemical bonds. Saturated fats have these really straight, rigid chains, but unsaturated fats, they have at least one double bond that creates a bend, or what we call a kink, in their chain. So because saturated fats have these straight, rigid structures, their chains can pack together really, really tightly. And this is exactly why they're solid at room temperature, like a stick of butter. Now, we do need some of these, but current guidelines suggest we should try to limit them to about 7 to 10% of our total energy intake. Unsaturated fats, on the other hand, have those kinks in their chains. And those bends prevent the molecules from packing together so tightly, which is why they stay liquid at room temperature. Think olive oil. These are the fats, the ones you find in things like fish and avocados that are linked to benefits for heart health and cholesterol levels. So you see, that one simple difference in molecular shape, that one little kink, completely changes how the fat behaves, both on your counter and inside your body. It really makes all the difference. Now, let's take that same idea and apply it to carbohydrates. We hear a lot about simple versus complex carbs, but a much more useful way to look at them is through the lens of quality over quantity. The glycemic index, or GI, is a rating that tells us about the quality of a carb. A food with a high GI releases sugar into your bloodstream really fast, while a low GI food does it much more slowly and steadily. But here's the thing, the GI doesn't tell the whole story. That's where the glycemic load, or GL, comes in. It gives us the full picture. It doesn't just factor in how fast the sugar hits your system, but also how much sugar you're actually getting in a serving. So it's looking at both the quality and the quantity. And why is this so important? Well, just look at this. A 2022 study on patients with type 2 diabetes found something stunning. After just 4 weeks, almost 80% of patients on a low GI and low GL diet saw their triglycerides, that's a type of fat in your blood, go down. Now, compare that to only 7% of those on a high GI and high GL diet. I mean, this just brilliantly shows the direct, powerful impact of choosing the right kind of carbs. So far, we've been thinking about fats and carbs as fuel, right? As energy that our bodies burn. But some of these molecules, they have a secret and much more fundamental job. What if the fats you eat aren't just fuel? What if they literally become a part of you? So, meet the phospholipid. It's this amazing little molecule with a total split personality. It has what we call a hydrophilic head that absolutely loves water and 2 hydrophobic tails that repel it. And here is where that structure becomes pure function. When you put these phospholipids in water, like the watery environment inside your body, they do something incredible all on their own. The water-loving heads automatically face out towards the water, and the water-repelling tails tuck inward away from it. And what you get is a perfect, flexible, double-layered barrier. So what does this mean? It means this structure, This is the very wall of every single cell in your body. These lipids aren't just for energy, they are the actual building materials. The food you eat is quite literally used to build and repair you cell by cell. So let's bring all this together. We've peeked inside the chemical code. What's the big takeaway from all this? First, structure is everything. That tiny little kink in an unsaturated fat changes its entire role in your body. Second, the quality of your carbs matters way more than you might think. Choosing low glycemic load foods can have a huge, measurable impact. And finally, and this is the big one, remember that you are, quite literally, what you eat. Those phospholipids on your plate are going to become the walls of your cells. By looking beyond the headlines and understanding the simple science of how these molecules are built, you move from just being a passive consumer to being the architect of your own health. The choice is yours.